This is a fragment of the Bitcoin Magazine writing team here, and there's a webmaster on the end over there too. We're going to all introduce ourselves, starting with the webmaster, and I'll go last and talk about our latest issue.
Hello. My name is Ryan Taylor. I'm the webmaster for Bitcoin Magazine. I've also been writing since the first issue, so just going on 2.5 years now.
My name is John Bush, and my lovely wife, Catherine, was supposed to be on the panel, but our daughter burnt her hand. But they'll be making it. She's okay. Big ups to Free Aid. They take Bitcoin. We've been familiar with Bitcoin for a couple years, and the past 6 months became obsessed with Bitcoin, as many people in this room probably can relate to. And I've wrote a few news stories. Catherine writes regular articles, and right now we're doing a live blog that Ruben's been helping us out a lot with through Bitcoin Magazine, documenting our travels from Central Texas, San Marcos, Texas, all the way up to the Porcupine Freedom Festival using Bitcoin only. There's actually been 2 small instances that we could talk about later that we used Bitcoin, but it's called the Unconventional Living Tour, so we're big fans of Bitcoin Magazine, all they do for the Bitcoin space, and thanks for coming out.
Hi, my name is Julia. I'm also known as Brave the World, and I'm probably the newest addition to the Bitcoin writing team, and it's been great. It's a really good community, and I'm hoping that more and more people discover the beauty and philosophy behind Bitcoin.
My name is Megan Lords. I'm also known as MK Lords. I've been writing for Bitcoin Magazine for nearly a year now. I mostly focus on writing about the charity and nonprofit side of Bitcoin. I'm the editor at Bitcoin Not Bombs, and I also do interviews like on my YouTube channel. So yeah, I'm really happy to be a part of the Bitcoin Magazine team, and yeah, most of my articles deal with, I also volunteer with Sean's Outpost, so a lot of the local events that are happening with that, that's usually what my articles center on.
And my name is Ruben, go by Ruben Alexander for the magazine. I'm the editor-in-chief. I have been writing since for the magazine since last June, where I went to a Bitcoin festival, and Elizabeth Plachet, who was our former ads and sales director, she asked me to start writing, and she said, you can write whatever you want. I was like, well, can I get paid in Bitcoin? And she said, yeah, sure. So I wrote like crazy, and I ended up writing about Bardo Farm, which is based out in New Hampshire. I actually visited that entire site, and that was a very interesting experience. My son got a free ox skull out of that trip. And I've been writing about a lot, Polish gliders flying over Mount Everest. There was a gentleman who raised a Bitcoin QR code at a ESPN game and got like 20 Bitcoins for it and donated it to Sean's Outpost to help the homeless out. And lots of very strange stories like that I've been able to follow. Even people who are from Spain driving through Africa, setting up Bitcoin exchanges in every country they were out through. So, and I just wanted to also talk about our latest issue that was just released a few days ago, I guess. It is centered on Bitcoin and art. And the story behind this is there's a Ukrainian artist. He's a hyper-realist artist, and he designs paper wallets for a company called Crypto Art. And he was interviewed by one of our writers, Victoria Van Eck, and I saw his work, I loved it, and I asked him, hey, would you be willing to do the cover for the next magazine? And he said, sure. And but he wanted it specifically to be about the relationship between the Ukraine and Russia. So the first image he sent me was a lesbian scene with the female that was on top, representing Russia, biting the face off of the female that represented the Ukraine. So immediately, as a dad, my son's right here, I imagined my son flipping that over and saying, Daddy, what's this? So I was like, hey, could you give it another shot? And he did. And he said, okay, well, try this one. This is a representative of the goddess, Greek goddess Hecate, who pulls souls out of Hades, but then brings souls back into Hades for those type of requests. And she's known as someone who influences from afar. And he said, this is how I see Russia influencing the Ukraine, distantly kind of sucking souls into hell, essentially. So he drew the proof. The actual initial sketch he created for us is inside the magazine. And if you can find it, I describe, there it is. Describe it, and afterward you guys can, actually I'll pass it around. This is how he initially presented the idea to us, and thank you. And so I thought it was a beautiful story. I love the connection to mythology. I like the connection to a current event, which was quickly shifted away from by the major media for the stories about Iraq. But I thought this story was still interesting. And we had someone from the Ukraine write a story about the entire past 6 to 9 months between the Ukraine and Russia and the conflicts happening there. But we didn't focus. We just went and talked about Ukraine just because it was Ukrainian artists making our cover. But a lot of stories are about artists and how they can, with a Bitcoin address, not just with live performances, live music, get Bitcoin for their work right away. But if that image is sent around on the internet or printed on a magazine, if you look at the bottom right of the cover, his QR code for his Bitcoin wallet's there. Anyone who sees the image can tip him and thank him in that way, even without buying the magazine. And I love that idea. I loved how powerful that was to try to detach the concept of the struggling artist and just open it up so that, people, artists, everyone's an artist really, but people can have power. So that is the latest issue. And in general, the next few issues, I'm very new as editor-in-chief. I started in April. But the next few issues are going to be about bridging another niche group with Bitcoin and seeing how we can connect with them. I'll spoil the next few issues. One's going to be for new Bitcoin users. The other one's going to be about the relationship between Bitcoin, female Bitcoin users, which would be very interesting. And then after that, we're going to go into Bitcoin and 3D printing, which I was here a couple days earlier this week, and I was able to make these Bitcoin symbol bracelets. And they were going like hotcakes. I wish I would have charged for them. But yeah, so I gave those away. People like them. And the issue is going to go into tutorials as to how to make your own Bitcoin memorabilia and QR codes. And we're just going to keep on going and bridging and trying to connect with different communities and show them how Bitcoin isn't just this pie-in-the-sky digital currency. This is something that's very real, and it can transform their life as it's transformed mine. So we can open it to questions now. If you guys have a question, just walk up to that mic over there, and I guess we can pass the mic around up here.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Pretty basic question. I looked into Bitcoin, and I don't understand the difference between how to get started. Do you just buy Bitcoins somewhere, or do you do the hashing and mining? Or do you do a combination, or how do you go about getting started?
Do you want this, Ryan, or you want me to do it? Okay. So there's a lot of ways to get Bitcoin. If you started dancing right now, I could give you Bitcoin for dancing, But the idea is that anyone, if you have a Bitcoin address, I can send it to you, and you can get it that easy. There are other ways to get it, but some of the most creative and fun ways are when you are selling something or doing something for Bitcoin. Now, there's also mining, which is another aspect, and that's how Bitcoins are released. And that's another way to get Bitcoin, but probably the easiest way is just to, you can ask me. Or there's actually another way. There's an ATM at Site 29, and if you have a public address as a QR code, you can turn your dollars into Bitcoin at that ATM. I brought a MiFi portable hotspot, so you can go there after this, and I can show you. I did it today. I converted $1 into Bitcoin.
Yeah, so there are a few different ways you can buy. I think the easiest way is peer-to-peer, just from people with cash. So what you do is you would download an app on your phone. You download a Bitcoin wallet, depending on what phone you have. They do kind of vary. But yeah, as soon as you have an address, you have a wallet address, people can scan that code and send you coin. And you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin at once. I think a lot of people are really confused about that because they see the price fluctuating a lot and they think that you have to buy a whole Bitcoin at once, when really it breaks down into 8 decimal points. You can buy as much as you want to buy at once. And again, the Bitcoin ATM is on site. Localbitcoins.com is a good way to find people in your area if you just want to if you want to pay in cash. I think that's the most anonymous way to purchase Bitcoins. You can also go through an exchange. You can go, there are a couple sites like BitPay and Coinbase. If you're wanting to buy Bitcoin from your bank account, you can do that with Coinbase. You're going to lose some anonymity there because they'll have your banking information. But if you are looking to do a business that accepts Bitcoin and you don't want to hold Bitcoin, that's a way to kind of have it connected to a bank account where you can cash out of it really easily.
I guess I'll just tell you how I started because I'm pretty fresh with the whole thing. I got online, got a wallet, blockchain.info, right? That's an online wallet. So if you get more Bitcoin down the road, I wouldn't keep it there, but it's a really it's like that's the simple first step. Blockchain.info, get a wallet. It'll give you an address. You use that address to receive Bitcoin. Find somebody on local Bitcoins and do a cash exchange or a PayPal exchange with them, and then you'll get Bitcoin sent to your address. That's the easiest way. And then from that, you can build on it, and you can sign up to. I use Vault of Satoshi or Satoshi's Vault. It's a Canadian company. It's a new one, and it's really really reputable. And you hook up your bank account through them. They have amazing customer service. That's why I'm recommending them. You can literally call them or just email them. They respond really fast. You get your account hooked up, transfer money, and then it's on the exchange and you turn them into Bitcoin. Again, don't keep your money on the exchange for long. Send it to your address, to your wallet. And you might want to, I use Electrum. Electrum's a really simple wallet and it's on your computer instead of online, so it's more secure.
Yeah, a lot's been touched on. I would start with the blockchain.info wallet or Mycelium app if you have, I don't know if they are on iPhone, but they're certainly on Android. And with the Mycelium app, it has something similar to local Bitcoins, which allows you to buy from other users. And Mycelium has a built-in service that searches people that are near you to sell you Bitcoin. And then once you have the wallet, you have an address that you can receive them. And I think the best thing to do is to receive Bitcoin in exchange for goods and services, so you don't have to, there's no barrier to entry really except for your time and energy, and you're adding another individual or business into the Bitcoin ecosystem to grow it and show people that there are real practical uses for the currency. And then, of course, you can buy from an exchange. Coinbase has been mentioned several times. I think that'd probably be the easiest bet. You do have to put your bank account information, and it's getting ever more intrusive. If you want to avoid something like that, you could use one of the local Bitcoins or Mycelium services in most instances. And I can help you set up a wallet, or I'm sure a lot of people are really enthusiastic for helping it out. You could do it in about 5 minutes. With the blockchain one, be sure you write down the mnemonic passphrase, which is like 16 or 19 words. Write that down, because if you lose your password, you'll need that to get back in. And then, come to site 29. You could use the Bitcoin ATM, pop some FRNs in. And then I dabble in a bit of mining, which is exciting. It's a really crazy space that's constantly changing, and just expect to get burnt, especially when you start. But I do think there's value in it, especially with Bitcoin 600 or more, and that's a way to consistently bring in Bitcoin even while the prices are going up. But unless you have a good technological background, I would certainly do a lot of research and link up with someone that's well-versed before you dabble in it in your own, because it does have the opportunity to lose all your investment. But you are decentralizing the network, which has a lot of value. So there you go. You could receive it in exchange for goods and services, buy it on an exchange, or mine with it. I think those are the three. There's no other way to do it. But yeah. Oh, an ATM is another way as well. Thanks.
They pretty much covered everything, but I just want to point out that the first time I actually received Bitcoin was a friend of mine who was running dailyanarchist.com, and he wanted to pay me in Bitcoin. I wasn't going to refuse payment, so I opened a wallet. He sent it to me, The algorithm that mining actually runs on is called a proof of work algorithm, which I always just took to mean you do work and you get your Bitcoin. So that's the way that I mine, is by actually doing work for people in exchange for Bitcoin.
Ruben, something you said, I just wanted to comment on. I think Bitcoin is obviously an excellent way to give tips to artists, bloggers, whoever, without having to go through a traditional banking system. I just want to point out a concern of printing non-transient QR codes, because what's going to happen in a year or 2 years, somebody picks up a magazine, hey, that's great, let me send this person a tip, but they no longer use that Bitcoin wallet, and they've lost their public key. And then all of a sudden, that Bitcoin goes into the ether. The artist doesn't get the tip, and the user, their money just disappeared. So just be concerned about again, printing persistent Bitcoins in places like Bitcoin Magazine that are going to be around for a while.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah, it's the whole idea behind Bitcoin is that you are not putting your value, your resources in the trust of a bank or a government. But to do that, and when you decentralize money, you take on a lot of personal responsibility. So for every Bitcoin user, it's not like you have a credit card and you have some maximum phony amount that you're spending that you're going to end up owing. This is, if you have Bitcoin, you have real Bitcoin that you're spending, and that's real Bitcoin to manage too. But yeah, it's a very good point.
I would add, just everybody, if you have a wallet, save your public and private key. Write it down, encrypt it. You can even commit it to memory. But yeah, as Ruben was saying, there's a lot of personal responsibility in the Bitcoin space, so it's contingent upon every user to be responsible. And if they want to keep bringing in money from a magazine that's really popular and has staying power, don't forget the private key and public address.
Yeah, this is a concern I had too, because I get paid and donated. I get donations for my work online, and I use the one address that I give actually ends with FU, which says a lot about me. That was a happy accident. So I use that one public address, and I have it in all my videos, and it's specific to that. So if anybody's making QR codes, it's going to be that address, and it's my blockchain.info. But then when I get a certain amount, I'll transfer it over to a more secure wallet. So instead of giving out a bunch of different addresses, which is more anonymous, I have that for other things. So like Bitcoin Magazine sends me payment through a different address, or my friend. I have like a special address for just my friends. So I try to keep it organized, and I would suggest the same, because if you use one address for everything, it's less anonymous and confusing. And then what if you change the address, then all of your payments are gone? Like, people will try to pay you and they can't. So I don't know, be conscious about it. You have to think about these things.
So you guys answered a lot of stuff that I was going to ask already. But before today, or yesterday I should say, the only thing I ever heard of Bitcoin was the word Bitcoin. And I'm very interested in it, and I'm a little confused about what it is. Is this something like, so because our money is going to be no good eventually, or maybe we're all going to be credit cards, is this something that just people are making, and then we're hoping that enough of the world takes it over, so we're kind of like bartering, we're living on a bartering system? When you say that but the Bitcoins are very real, I'm still confused. Does the banks and the government have Bitcoins?
Yes, they stole the Bitcoins. I spoke to Lynn, I think it was, Lynn Albrecht. I think it was Sunday or Monday. And yeah, they definitely have taken Bitcoin. And they're selling them too, so. Yeah. Do you want to talk about mining and how they're created? Okay, I mean, on a basic level, first I'll talk about Bitcoin, how this digital entity is real, and I'll also talk about mining too. So Bitcoin, actually, digitization of money is very real. Everyone is using digital money right now. It's just that there's paper dollars that people have accepted to represent that digital money. I saw somewhere written, saw a comment somewhere where someone said if everyone burned all their paper dollars, there would not be any less dollars in the U.S. government. So that aside, Bitcoin is digital money, but it is not issued by a government. It is issued by a decentralized network. And when I say decentralized network, I'm talking about hardware that goes through and the Bitcoin software releases a certain amount of Bitcoin for solving and verifying payments that happen on the network. So instead of the government saying, okay, this is money, you can use this, Bitcoin has money, and you have to prove that you actually own the money. That's verified, and whatever computer verifies that gets Bitcoin as a payment. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to be more confusing. But yeah, I mean, and miners are literally half of what Bitcoin is. They verify all payments that happen, and then on the other side you have Bitcoin users like us who spend money. So did that answer any of your questions? Okay.
Can I touch on that one? Or pass it down, sorry.
Okay. And so, yeah, a good question is, where does it get its value from? And a lot of people will say, oh, well, it's a fiat currency. It's not backed by any tangible asset. Well, so Bitcoin is a currency, but it's also a payment system. And I think this confuses a lot of people, because what you're doing is so you have, your uppercase B, Bitcoin, which is the protocol or the payment system, then your lowercase b, which is the currency. So the currency moves across the payment system. Now, the fact that you can send Bitcoin anywhere in the world for a very small percentage, for a very small fee, makes it valuable to people all around the world. It's just a more effective payment system. So this gives the currency part value to a lot of people. It's, when you compare it to sending money via Western Union or something, it completely blows Western Union out of the water. I mean, Western Union is charging something like 12% to send money to the poorest parts of the world. And with Bitcoin, you can do that for much less. So a lot of people would argue that aspect makes Bitcoin valuable. That people are taking it for goods and services also gives it a degree of value. You can use it as an exchange for goods and services. So whether or not the government says Bitcoin is legitimate, it's legitimately a currency in that people use it every day.
I guess one of your questions was, what is Bitcoin? Which is, I love that question. So Bitcoin, this is my area of expertise. Bitcoin isn't just one thing, as Lords just touched upon. Bitcoin is an idea, right? It's an idea that's revolutionizing the way we make payments. It's revolutionizing the idea of currency. And a lot of gold people, they say, oh, Bitcoin isn't backed by anything, it's not real, it's fiat. Is math real? Yeah, math is real. Bitcoin is ultimately an algorithm, so it's real. And all currency is something that we believe in to have value. There's no such thing as inherent value, really, unless it's seeds that you can grow and eat. Maybe, and seeds were used as currency back in the day. So just to give a little perspective on the ideas of currency. And Bitcoin is also a political revolution, because you were asking about the banks and the systems, and hopefully Bitcoin will never become integrated with the current systems we have today, because I think that's a betrayal of the original idea of what it's supposed to be. And if that happens, fine, we have other cryptocurrencies.
She's a rebel. Yeah, that's a great question that always comes up. Does Bitcoin have value? How does it get its value? And I subscribe to the subjective theory of value, which is one of the foundational elements of the Austrian School of Economics. And, a lot of people talk about intrinsic value, which is something that the Austrian school touches upon too, but I reject that in its entirety, because, people say, well, gold has intrinsic value because you can use it for electronics applications. Same thing with silver. But, if you don't have any food and nobody's willing to accept your gold, it's just a paperweight. Same thing with Bitcoin. If you don't have the internet, you can do offline exchanges, but if no one's willing to accept the computer, or you can't get access to update the blockchain or verify the transaction, then there's not much value there. Another element of whether or not something has value is utility. And so I think, one way to answer the question is if Bitcoin is valuable is, do people find utility in it? And there's a lot of people who have all agreed that this particular instrument has a lot of utility in that we can exchange with one another without relying on a centralized institution, which generally makes it more expensive. Regulations also make it more expensive to do business. And we could trade across the globe, across borders, across any geographic area just about instantly with little to no cost. And I think there's immense value in that. And I've found a lot of value in that in my personal life. For example, I founded the Liberty Beat. It's a daily radio news service, and I pay the people, the writers, with Bitcoin. And before I was paying with Bitcoin, one of my friends, he's an agorist, meaning he likes to do things off book and doesn't want the government to have anything to do with it, which is, more power to him. So I was sending him Western Union at HEB. So not only did I have to go to HEB, but I also had to pay like 5, 7, 8% or something. And I was like, wait a second, I know about Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoin fan. Why am I not sending him Bitcoin? So I found immense value in being able to simply log onto my computer and send it instantly across 4 hours worth of geographic space, and I don't no longer have to go to HEB to do such a thing. So I think that's one reason why Bitcoin is valuable, because a lot of people have a consensus that it is very utilitarian. They can use it and benefit their lives. And then the other thing, which has been touched upon, is the difference between Bitcoin with the capital B, the Bitcoin network, and the difference between lowercase b, the currency. And I think there's immense value in the network that is being created in a decentralized peer-to-peer fashion across the entire globe. Not only the computing power, the Bitcoin network is said to be 6 times, I think it's more now, more powerful, way more than 6, than 3,000 times. You are way off. We'll just say it's a crap load times more powerful than the most powerful supercomputer that any government or massive mega corporation owns. And there's immense value in what that computing power can be used for, which leads to the concept of Bitcoin 2.0 or metacoins, or essentially using the blockchain technology, which is the public ledger that Bitcoin is based on, using that system in order to perform functions like similar to Lyft, or what's the other one? Uber. There's a protocol being developed that links up GPS with blockchain technology that allows you to do a rideshare program in a decentralized manner with no corporate head for the city governments to, coalesce with the taxi cartel to try to shut down. There's permacredits. People are investing in permaculture and in land and eco-villages by using this blockchain technology. So I think currency is only the first application of the Bitcoin network, and we are yet to truly realize the inherent value. Well, scratch the inherent one there. We're yet to truly realize the potential and the value that Bitcoin really has. I think it's going to change and disrupt just about every industry, not just the currency, but the technology, the blockchain technology that's behind Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So buy some if you don't have it.
The power of Bitcoin is really in the decentralization, which you've heard several times here, the decentralized network. That network benefits when people buy Bitcoin, when investors buy into Bitcoin, when new startups create new technologies and services and products that support Bitcoin and grow it. Bitcoin is made of people, and there is no they, it is us.
We are Bitcoin. I am supporting.
First of all, thank you for all being here and answering our questions. I got a couple questions, but my first important question is, a lot of people are stacking silver now, and is there a way to turn silver into Bitcoin without huge penalties?
Yes, the Liberty Mint up here in spot number 1, also sharing a booth with Copblock. They'll do the exchange back and forth. Amagi Gold, Amagi Metals also does the exchange. I believe they are here as well. They also have a website where they do it through. You guys know more? Liberty Mint's not charging anything. They love Bitcoin there.
They say there's a number on the Bitcoin that is hidden. There's some type of identification number on there.
The private key is how you send Bitcoin, how you spend it. So there's 2 parts to every Bitcoin address. There's the public key and the private key. It's called paired key cryptography. You can receive with the public key. You can give that to everyone. It's like your email address. And the private key is a cryptographic, it's alphanumeric number that you use in order to spend. Yes, no problem. And the paper wallet generally has both, so that you can spend a paper wallet, and then anyone who receives it can then take the Bitcoin out of that wallet and take it into their own wallet.
So I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. Getting a wallet is a lot easier than going to the bank. You download an app, you have an account. And there's a lot of really good benefits to using it. And we're really embarking on a grand experiment here with it, so it's a really exciting time to be involved with it. My questions are, how do your philosophies align with the concept of Bitcoin? And what is your vision of the outcome of this grand experiment that we're on?
So I don't think I've talked about my background, but I got a degree as an electrical engineer, but immediately dived into corporate America and did so for probably 10 years straight if you add them all together. That was an immensely miserable time, to have not just one boss, but in some cases two bosses, a boss on top of a boss, all telling you to do things that are totally disassociated with sometimes your skills, your passions, and to do that for 10 years is just miserable. And now to be able to kind of let other Bitcoin enthusiasts like myself let their ideas just shoot right up. I mean, the idea for Bitcoin and art was not mine. That was our writer Victoria Van Eck, and the cover is not my idea. This is someone else's idea. The fact that I can do that and support that is it's amazing. I call it a dream job to be able to do that as an editor. But the idea is that because I've had that 10 years, almost in mental slavery, I've realized that, I know a lot of people dislike the government, but I personally dislike large corporations more because they use the government with lobbyists and various techniques to really create an unfair landscape and keep themselves as the main power, or main employment power. So, a lot of people have day jobs because of this. They're not off doing something. I know some people do, but, a lot of people just, the higher paying jobs are because large corporations have boxed themselves in and created this unfair work environment. And I see Bitcoin as a way to revolutionize that. And now all of a sudden you have a bunch of Bitcoin users who get to determine what they think is valuable, and they're willing to put their Bitcoins towards any efforts, like a dark wallet, or if someone's doing a blog or a podcast, if they like it, they can tip them immediately. And this has nothing to do with anything except for being enjoying someone's passion and enjoying someone's work. And I see that expanding and flourishing in the future.
So Bitcoin for me is a way to empower the people who need it the most. So what I focus on mostly with Bitcoin is the nonprofit and charity side. And what you're seeing is a lot of activity in this space, and you're seeing a lot of principles of anarchism, just different philosophies, libertarianism too. You're seeing a lot of this theory being applied through Bitcoin, and you're seeing the results of this in the real world. While I like theory, and it's something that I'm very fascinated with, you're seeing a lot of action in Bitcoin, and that's what really makes it real for me. For example, Sean's Outpost delivered 60,000 meals to the homeless in 1 year just through Bitcoin donations. Bitcoin Not Bombs does a Hoodie the Homeless project every year, where if you buy hoodies, if you stop by our booth and buy hoodies, you can we'll donate a hoodie to a homeless person and also get them food and some of the other things they need. We also have pins for sale that supports Ross Ulbricht's defense fund. What I really like about the Bitcoin community is everyone is extremely supportive of one another. Everyone's looking to help each other out, and we are the example of helping people without asking permission and without the governments and the corporations getting in the way of it. So if to me, it's one of the most active spaces, especially if you have a foundational philosophy in anarchism or libertarianism. But it's not specific to any kind of isms either. I mean, anyone can participate in the community. It really runs the entire spectrum of ideology from what I've seen in it. So it's a very active space, and it really brings a lot of these ideas down to earth.
If you look at Satoshi and the little clue, Satoshi's the kind of anonymous creator of Bitcoin. If you look at the clues he left behind, such as Bitcoin, his birthday, his symbolic birthday falls on the same day as Roosevelt passed the 6102 executive order, which forbade the hoarding of gold, which to me is significant of being anti-establishment and the establishment disempowering people and their currency. If you look at other writings that he's left behind, they seem to have a very libertarian ethos, maybe even a crypto-anarchist ethos. So to me, Bitcoin, it's a way to escape the system. It's a way to transcend being part of a coercive environment that we're forced to be in. It's a way to live in a cooperative world where we have symbiotic ecosystems of commerce and support and dedication and just human cooperation. It's not like we're here right now, and the way that Bitcoin, I hope, ends up is transcendent of the current systems. So it's very, if you believe in liberty, if you believe in freedom, again, you don't have to have specific ism. Like Bitcoin is saturated in that because it lets you, it's an escape. It's not a revolution. It's like in that sense of the word, because it's outside of the systems completely. And hopefully it'll stay that way, because right now it's totally under attack.
Yeah, there's this weird strand in the Bitcoin movement that's like, oh, let's leave the politics out of Bitcoin, and it's not a political thing, Let's all go get rich. I assume many of their they don't want that to get in the way of their bottom line, but I think it is inherently political. Bitcoin is anarchy. Anarchy is Bitcoin, and I think Satoshi's writings, that's just oozing out of that. I like to appeal to authority. Well, the creator of Bitcoin thought it was pretty damn political, and the reasons why he listed for bringing Bitcoin out of his mind or their minds. But for me, I've been a political activist for a little over a decade, an activist in general. Started educating people about what I thought or what didn't happen on 9/11 back in 2002, and then learned about the Constitution, was introduced to libertarianism through Ron Paul's political campaign in 2007, although I already had a lot of strands of libertarianism, just didn't know what it was called. And then did a lot of political activism at the local and state level, my wife and I. And when we met, we decided, we're so passionate about freedom, we're tired of banging our heads against the wall, asking bureaucrats and politicians to change their behavior. If we really want to be free, why don't we change our behavior? So we came up with this concept, this lifestyle called sovereign living, which many people are already doing. And it's just the idea that we should not be dependent on centralized institutions or coercive institutions in order to solve our common problems and fulfill our wants and needs. So we were already vibing on that level, and we started encouraging people to accept silver or barter, and instead of using the Federal Reserve notes. We did the whole End the Fed thing, which a lot of people in the Ron Paul movement did after the Ron Paul campaign. And we realized, man, it's somewhat inconsistent and hypocritical for us to be chanting End the Fed and then to go home and fill the gas tank with the FRNs or to purchase something with Federal Reserve notes after we just left the rally, or buy the shirt at the rally with Federal Reserve notes. People say FRNs have no value. If you genuinely believe that, you can come see us at Site 29, and I'll take them off your hands because I think that they do have utility. But what really gives them value, besides the fact that there's legal tender laws and it's a system that's backed by a bunch of men with guns, is that everyone keeps using them. Every time you hand over that FRN, you're building value in the Federal Reserve System. They're in turn leveraging the value that you put into the system and using it to finance foreign wars of aggression and fund our own oppression here at home and build this massive police state. So when I started hearing about Bitcoin, it naturally fit, because what greater example of sovereign living do we have? Here we have living proof. It's anarchy in action. It's working on a global scale. There's hundreds of thousands of people, maybe more, that are participating voluntarily for mutual benefit, and now we have a way to point at it and say, here, you know, for those of you that say, well, anarchism has never happened before, it's just pie in the sky, utopian. It's like, no, well, here's anarchism right here. Let me show it to you. We can give you a wallet, you can participate, you'll be participating in anarchism. So that's why I'm super excited about Bitcoin. It's more than money. It has the opportunity to free the market, free the world, as they say. And one thing that was really a eureka moment for me, when we had our children, we had home births, and we didn't get them social security numbers. And everyone would always say, well, what are you going to do when it comes time for them to have a bank account or drive? And I would say, well, you know, we got a good 15 years or so, 10 to 15 years. I don't know, they're already engaging in exchange now, but we now have a time clock to where we need to build the alternative institutions necessary to create an environment where they can easily and peacefully engage in exchange or travel throughout this world, I'm not even going to say country, throughout this space, without having to ask permission first. And as I was saying that and thinking that, Bitcoin was already around, I just hadn't heard about it. So it didn't take 10 or 15 years. I didn't have to go bust my hump creating these networks. They were created naturally and organically. And now my children have a way to conduct commerce across the entire globe without having to first give their social security number. So for me, that's the true promise of Bitcoin, the ability that it has to create a free world.
As far as the ideology of the magazine goes, we consider ourselves an idea garden. We try to express every perspective on Bitcoin, all of the new ideas, no matter how crazy they are. The magazine was actually created by a man named Mihai Alisi out of Romania. He brought Vitalik Buterin on, who is out of Toronto. They found me in California. So we were all spread out. The spirit of decentralization is really at the heart of the magazine, as is the community. And community building has really been our goal from the beginning. Above all else, we want to see Bitcoin succeed.
So this is actually a great, sorry. So this is these fantastic descriptions of your own past is maybe a great setup for this. And I hope this question is not too nerdy and potentially interesting. So I'm kind of a crypto nerd. And one thing that fascinates me about Bitcoin is that in many ways it's actually not new, or rather it's the assembly of technologies that have in some cases been around for a while, from PGP to Waydow's B-Money to Hashcash, proof of work systems. So this is to say, why did it emerge at the moment that it did? Why did it come into, why, in your opinion, aside from, you know, Satoshi was struck by a bolt of lightning and, you know, why did it kind of take shape, and why did it have this moment of adoption and flourishing that it's going through now?
Well, I'd like to start with why I believe it succeeded, because when it originally started, it started worth less than $1 per Bitcoin, right? And then there was a spike in June of 2011 up to $32, and then a crash, and it was just a pump and dump that happened. And I can't remember who it was. It was like the Washington Journal reported that Bitcoin was dead. Wired said the rise and fall of Bitcoin. It dropped back down to $2, and then it slowly began to climb again. I honestly believe that the reason that it succeeded through that was we had the advent of the largest Bitcoin exchange in the world, namely Mt. Gox, whose name now I loathe saying. But they did us a huge service at the time. They created a giant exchange, and they gave us, through Dwala, another company who's turned their backs on the Bitcoin community, they gave us access to buy and sell Bitcoin and get it into whatever currency we wanted. That was huge for the Bitcoin economy, and that really helped it grow. The second thing that I think really helped it succeed is the Silk Road. There was a marketplace that really showed people how Bitcoin could be used, and something that created a whole new realm of safety and security that no one had ever seen before, that no other currency allowed. And that was the marketplace that Bitcoin needed in order to have that foundation. Both of those things are gone now, but we have countless replacements for them, and decentralized solutions at that. So the decentralized exchanges are under works right now, so that the exchange can't be held responsible for theft or for shutdown or for gangbangers knocking on your door with badges and killing everyone. And then we have decentralized marketplaces. Silk Road goes down, 10 more pop up. And then we've got the dark market, which Mitaki released in Toronto last year. And that's the software, open source software, that allows anyone to create their own decentralized marketplace and sell anything you want.
Yeah, I think there's there's a perfect storm brewing now, and there's all sorts of really cool stuff taking place all across the country or the world, really. And I think the time is now. The technology's there, the people are in place, the network's in place, the early birth that started giving it value, and then the Cypress thing happened. That's when there was another huge jump in Bitcoin price. So I think as more and more people become the alternative media, I think, plays a big role in it too, because there's now channels that people can genuinely understand how bad they're being robbed by their governments and by big corporate fat cats colluding with government. So I think that's created an environment where people now know that there's an alternative, and I think it's just going to continue as more economies crash. Some of them might even pick up Bitcoin to use as their currency because there's no other alternative that works, and their money was raided by the IMF or something. So I think that's going to continue to happen. There's going to continue to be value added because there's no better alternative, really.
The earth is fertile with unrest and disdain for the world we live in right now and the systems that we're forced to be in. And it's just the perfect time. And freedom is on everyone's mind. And this wouldn't have been... Everything came together perfectly, the widespread use of the internet and the cheapness of computing power and the whole, even the libertarian movement and Ron Paul and alternative media and everything's grown so much in the last 5 years. So I can't imagine a different time for this. It just goes hand in hand with everything else.
I think the economic recession in 2008 really opened a lot of people's eyes to how messed up the entire financial situation is in the legacy banking system. And it had been a long time coming. This technology was getting better and better. It happened to really perfectly coincide with this huge crisis that, put a lot of people on the street, that it really shook the foundation of a lot of people. And people are seeing how quick technology is progressing in all of these other areas, that they're starting to see that we can have different ways to address the problems in society with technology and not through laws and not through government and some of these other mechanisms. So people are, I think, in general, looking for more creative solutions to some of these problems that are, have always been around or just, becoming. So yeah, I think people are looking for these solutions, and I think Bitcoin provides a lot of them. I don't know that Bitcoin is perfect, and when I say Bitcoin, a lot of times I'm talking about the broader just blockchain technology. So there are a lot of innovations in the whole sphere of cryptography and communications and privacy. So people are keeping an eye on it, and I think that's really helping with its popularity.
I'll just briefly say Satoshi Nakamoto embedded in the first block of transaction, chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks. And that, I think, was a very silent but powerful message that he wanted to fork history and try this new experiment to see what would happen if you took out these people who are just helping prop up a lot of players in the banking industry that are really mismanaging people's resources. And the other side, I would say, as to why it's done so well is if you look at the internet, and I think even Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, said that the internet is anarchy, free communications. If you look at what that's done to most people's lives and how, right now I could send a message on the internet, everyone who's watching can see while I'm writing. That level of freedom is very addictive. And the more you use it, the more you appreciate it, and the more you start to push the limits as to how you can communicate. It's the same thing with Bitcoin. When you see that you can, I can use John's ATM, and all of a sudden I can turn my dollar into a Bitcoin, and I can go and buy silver with it, buy ice cream, bacon ice cream. I could do all these things easily. That freedom is very addictive, and I think that's why it's caught on.
So I have been watching Bitcoin for a while. I could ask a million questions. I'm going to try to stay focused because I'm just geeking out. But last PorcFest I came here, and that's when I realized, like, man, I got to get into this. I could literally buy almost anything here, and I bought my first Bitcoin. And shortly after that, I got a bunch of my geek friends together and went on in a miner. Like, I think we can do this. I'll run the numbers best I can, and we all split the risk, and it worked out for us, and we really enjoyed it. We learned a lot in the process. We've been watching the ruling. I don't remember what government body put it out, but about treating money. Is it going to be a capital gains asset? Is it going to be exchange of property? And it seemed to land in the weirdest, most arbitrary way possible. So I kind of wanted, our concern for that was, I don't think that they're going to be, they'd be a lot of work to spin up and try to find everybody and say, okay, what was your Bitcoin at this point? But going forward, as they try to develop their processes, it kind of becomes this game like, well, gosh, if my if the organization I'm mining with decides to share information, or these people decide to share information, it becomes like one person or two people in the chain, kind of rats you out, and we're kind of winding down our mining operation because of that. I guess I'm curious on what your opinion is on how that's going to affect the Bitcoin landscape, and also I'm curious if any of you guys mine semi-seriously or at all. And if not, you guys partially. I know you got paid in Bitcoin. Did any of you else get paid in Bitcoin?
Okay, so just to, I guess we'll take one more question, and then after that, I have 2 kegs in my car filled with beer, and we're having a huge party. I think it's somewhere over there, but I'll find out later. I thought I got half kegs, but I think they're both full kegs, so I really need a lot of people to drink them. But you guys, it's someone asked me, "Oh, how much are you charging for all that beer?" And I was like, "Well, it's free. You guys can just have it." We'll put it. We have a QR code for our magazine, and you can donate if you want to, but drink first and donate later if you want. So what you were referring to is the IRS notice that came out that said that Bitcoin is going to be taxed as property. I have been to several conferences, a couple actually, one in DC where the Internal Revenue Services was actually on the panel, and I've also been to a conference in Chicago. I was literally flying back from that last night. And I've heard after that notice came out, which the notice goes into detail talking about how they're going to tax mining, how they want to tax mining, how they want to tax whenever it's spent. So, this is their notice, and the notice also has an email address where people are supposed to email back comments on and as to whether they think it's totally okay or just freaking crazy, But you can comment on that. And this is not, this is something I've spoken to, at the conference I went to in DC, I spoke to Senator Steve Stockman, and he thought it was crazy. And he says that, his bill that he has proposed would treat, if you go to spend Bitcoin, or spend it in a way that, like with gift, you can get an Amazon gift card for Bitcoin, GYFT, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but you can transfer your Bitcoin into Amazon credit, and in that way that you get a sales tax on that. That's what his bill proposes, that you do a sales tax. I think personally it's still, I know there's some people that are very against that and think that there will be ways around. Technology is very fast, and it's often faster than law. So, but I don't know. I think that it's still up for debate as to what will happen with regards to that.
Yeah, I expect the government to be cracking down more on the regulatory side in the next year. I think it's going to be a really defining year for Bitcoin. But it is something that I think might be difficult to enforce, and I think a lot of people are going to ignore it. And it's kind of interesting to me to see. So we have this very new technology, and there are a lot of directions it could go, and a lot of just beliefs people could have about it. But if we had started, maybe if we had been more vigilant, at the beginning of the internet, for example, we could have a very different internet than what we have now. So I would just say, keep that in mind when people are discussing, well, maybe we need a little bit of regulation. Maybe we just need to, we need a little bit of government protection from this, scary new technology. I would say consider resisting that, and it would be an interesting experiment to see a massive resistance of paying taxes on Bitcoin.
Okay.
Great.